Why does she lose interest the moment you start loving her too much? The hidden cost of giving her your fire. There comes a moment in a man's life, not loud, not dramatic, but devastatingly quiet, when he stops burning. The same woman who once hands shake with hunger now feels like routine. Her voice no longer stirs his chest. Her touch no longer haunts his dreams. He hasn't fallen out of love. He hasn't found someone else. He's simply seen too much. He has seen behind the velvet curtain of desire and realized the cruel truth no one dares to say aloud. What he called love was often just biology in disguise. Schopenhauer, with a blade of brutal clarity, once wrote, "The lover imagines he is pursuing his own interest, while in truth he is serving an interest foreign to himself, the species." The fire didn't fade because you're broken. It faded because nature got what it wanted, or realized it never would. And now, you're left not with passion, but with perception. Society calls this numbness, but it's not numbness, it's clarity. And this is the truth. The day you stop burning is the day you start seeing. Why does she respect you less? The more you give. The silent erosion of the masculine in modern relationships. It doesn't happen all at once. At first, it's subtle. You begin to turn away, not out of anger, but indifference. You still care, but that magnetic pull, it's gone. And you don't know why. You lie awake, wondering what changed. The same laugh, the same scent, the same body beside you. But something inside you, deep, almost primal, has gone still. And then the doubt creeps in. Is something wrong with me? Have I lost my edge? Am I becoming numb? No. You are awakening. You are beginning to see what few men ever do in time. That the fire you once mistook for eternal love was a design, a system, a spell. Arthur Schopenhauer wrote, "The sexual impulse is the most vehement of all cravings. It seizes the mind and overpowers the will like madness." But here's what he didn't say loudly enough. When the madness lifts, something rare emerges. Clarity. You see, nature is not your friend. It doesn't want your fulfillment. It wants your utility. You were never the architect of your desire. You were the vessel, the carrier, the puppet, and the strings were pulled not by love, but by biology. A man can do what he wills, but he cannot will what he wills, Schopenhauer. That line is a door into understanding why you burn so intensely and why you now feel hollow. It was never personal. It was never romantic. It was never about you. The fire inside you wasn't yours. It was the will to life, a blind, ruthless force, dressing up necessity and poetry and perfume. What you felt was sacred, it was strategic. Because once nature is satisfied, or once it concludes that reproduction isn't likely, the veil falls. The chemical cocktail fades, the fantasy dissolves. And the woman who once looked like a goddess now looks simply human. Still kind, still valuable, but no longer mystical. And that mystery, that was the fuel. Desire is sustained by the illusion of possibility, Friedrich Nietzsche. Modern relationships unknowingly destroy that illusion. We believe closeness will intensify passion. We believe sharing everything, our space, our time, our toothbrush, will deepen connection. But closeness without distance is not intimacy. It's exposure. And exposure is the enemy of Eros. The podcast you heard referenced the Westermarck effect, a psychological phenomenon where people raised together in close familial settings develop a sexual aversion to one another. Not because they resist desire, but because the desire never even begins. Familiarity suppresses the flame. Sameness kills mystery, and the masculine drive does not thrive in comfort. It thrives in contrast. This is what no one tells men. You were not designed to burn forever. You were designed to burn briefly, long enough to mate, and then the system shuts off the voltage. It's not malfunction, it's mission complete. And so men find themselves in this tragic place, lying next to the woman they once adored, feeling a silence they don't understand, blaming themselves for a perfectly natural transformation. We forfeit 3/4 of ourselves in order to be like other people. Arthur Schopenhauer. And so you fake it, you pretend, you perform, you take pills, you buy books, you chase novelties, trying to resurrect a flame that biology has already extinguished. But what if you stopped chasing the fire and started listening to the silence? Because in that silence is something holy, a whisper from your deeper self. This is not weakness. This is evolution. The world will not celebrate this awakening. They'll call you cold, distant, disinterested. But I'll tell you what it really is. It's your mind returning to you. The fog is lifting. The madness is fading. And for the first time in your life, you are not a slave to your craving. That is not collapse. It is the beginning of true power. Why do women only return after you've moved on? The power of the untouchable man. There comes a point when the mask of romance slips. You don't hate her. You're not angry. In fact, you may still admire her strength, her kindness, her beauty. But the ache, that haunting hunger that once pulled you toward her like gravity, it's gone. And now you're left holding the memory of a feeling that no longer exists. Most men panic when this moment arrives. They search for reasons. They blame stress, hormones, age, even themselves. But what if the reason is far more ancient, far more terrifying, and far more liberating? What if love, as we've been taught to worship it, was never meant to last? Schopenhauer, the philosopher who dared to unmask the sacred, once wrote, "The ultimate aim of all love affairs is actually more important than all other ends in human life, and is concerned with the composition of the next generation. Not happiness, not fulfillment, not a lifelong connection, reproduction. You weren't falling in love. You were falling into alignment with a force much older than logic, much colder than sentiment. The will to life doesn't care about candlelight or compatibility. It cares about continuity. And once it has what it needs, or senses it never will, it retreats. That's why the fire fades, not because you're broken, because the machinery that produced it has finished its work." But here's where the tragedy begins. Modern society offers no ceremony for this moment, no language for it, no mentor to say, "You are not less of a man, you are just seeing clearly now." So men spiral. They feel guilt. They force performance. They chase novelty, hoping to find again what has already expired. To marry means to do everything possible to become repulsive to each other. Schopenhauer with piercing honesty. The very structure of modern relationships accelerates the collapse. We're told to merge lives entirely, to share bathrooms, calendars, finances, space, habits. We call this love. But this closeness erodes the polarity that once fueled your desire. Because desire thrives not on proximity, but on distance. Not on familiarity, but on mystery. The more we know, the less we burn. This is not cynicism, it's physics of the psyche. In ancient tribes and traditional cultures, this was understood instinctively. Men and women occupied separate spheres. Men hunted, built, and bled with other men. Women nurtured, gathered, and mothered with other women. Time together was limited. Contact was sacred. Polarity was preserved by design. But modernity has collapsed all boundaries. Now we seek closeness at all costs, believing the more we access, the more we'll desire. But access breeds familiarity, and familiarity kills longing. The podcast you heard was right to bring up the Westermarck effect. When humans are raised too close, the erotic instinct shuts down. Not out of virtue, but design. Apply that to relationships. When you live with someone long enough, see them cry, complain, cough, snore, bleed, break down, you're not lovers anymore. You're siblings in disguise. No one dares say it, but you feel it, and so does she. What once looked divine now looks disturbingly normal. This is the quiet betrayal no man is warned about, that his desire has a clock. And once the illusion dies, the craving vanishes with it. That's why even the most beautiful woman can become invisible over time. Because the body isn't just chasing curves. It's chasing the meaning behind the curves, the projection, the mystery, the imagined otherness. And when the mind can no longer imagine, the body no longer follows. You're not shallow. You're not selfish. You're simply awakening to the difference between intimacy and illusion. With the fading of illusion, our interest in the object fades also. Schopenhauer again. You once believed desire would last. You were told if the love was real, the fire would be eternal. But no one told you that fire was a servant, not a soulmate. It served something beyond you, and when its duty ended, it left. And what's left behind is not failure, it's space. Space to think, to see, to reclaim the energy that was once hijacked by biology's script. This is the truth no one dares tell men. What you called chemistry may have been captivity. What you called love may have been longing wrapped in instinct. And what you called forever was never meant to last. Because once the illusion is seen, it cannot be unseen. And once it's gone, your only choices are cling to the memory of heat that no longer burns, or learn to live in the light of your own clarity. Why must a man guard his fire, even from the woman he loves? The final law of self-respect in a world that tests you. To every man listening, you were not born to suffer in silence. You were not put on this earth to explain yourself into exhaustion. You were not created to beg for basic respect or to twist your soul just to be tolerated. You were born to command yourself, to protect your mind, to guard your fire. That fire, that sacred intensity inside you, it is not a tool for validation. It is not meant to be burned out trying to prove your worth to someone who keeps moving the finish line. It is not meant to be sacrificed on the altar of her moods. Seneca once said, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." And modern love, unfortunately, has become the most subtle form of adversity, because it does not come with swords. It comes with silence, with delayed replies, with emotional blackmail cloaked as boundaries, with compliments followed by corrections, with love that feels more like performance evaluation than connection. Listen closely. You don't need another motivational speech. You need a ritual, a code, a line in the sand that no beauty, no loneliness, no nostalgia can make you cross. Line is this: you do not dim your light to soothe someone else's shadows. If she is cold, you do not burn yourself to warm her. If she is distant, you do not chase, because real men are not beggars in disguise. She was sent to test you, not to complete you, not to heal your mother wound, not to save you from your solitude, but to ask one quiet, brutal question. Will you choose yourself even when she won't? Nietzsche warned, "Be careful, lest in casting out your demons you cast out the best thing in you." And the sad truth is, many men today are taught to cast out their instincts, their leadership, their masculine edge, all in the name of being safe, soft, harmless. But who benefits from a man without a fire? Who wins when you abandon your own flame? Not her, not you, not the world. A woman may say she wants peace, but what she truly respects is a man who refuses to be controlled. Not by her praise, not by her tears, not even by her love. Because here's the paradox: she will only feel safe in the presence of a man who cannot be swayed by her emotions. She will only surrender to a man who does not fear losing her. This is not cruelty, this is gravity. It is the natural law of masculine polarity. You were meant to lead, not by force, but by presence. Not by manipulation, but by unshakable inner alignment. So I leave you with this: let her test you. Let the storms come. Let the old parts of you die screaming if they must. But protect the flame, that unyielding fire inside you that still chooses discipline over distraction, sovereignty over seduction, purpose over pleasure. Let it burn, even if it burns alone. Because in the end, it is not the man who is most loved who wins. It is the man who remains unbroken by love's illusions. And when you become him, she will either rise to meet you or be burned by the storm she could no longer control. You don't need her to stay. You just need you to never leave yourself again.